All right, let's get started. So let's talk about peace. All right. Not everybody wants peace because when things get quiet, they're forced to face themselves, as in they got to talk to themselves. And a lot of people, especially in this world, they need a lot of distractions, which is why you're probably watching this on your phone and you're probably scrolling. But I'm here to tell you that, there's a lot of people out there where they need chaos. They crave chaos in order to feel something. And so, if you're watching this and you're new here, my name is Mitchell. I'm a relationship coach. And in today's live, I'll be talking about drama isn't personality, it's low self worth. And so, let's talk about the first thing, which is chaos feels great when you lack inner stability. And so, there's something that I've heard, and I forgot who said this, but the less value people have in themselves, the more they rely on drama to keep things interesting. And so, if someone doesn't feel grounded within themselves, peace feels empty. It feels like something's missing. So then they need to create this type of chaos in order to feel something. An example would be, especially if you're in a relationship, picking up unnecessary arguments when things are actually going well, or getting bored when the relationship is actually stable, overreacting to something small just to create this emotional spike in your relationship. And so the reason why this happens is because chaos means or equals to distraction from facing themselves. And so, like I said, that's why a lot of people they distract themselves. We all have three influences in our life. One that keeps us in the past, and I'm pretty sure you all know those people that they always talk about the good old days, and nothing wrong with talking about the good old days because there are some good times in the past, and maybe you were at your peak in the past. So a lot of my friends back in the days, they peaked at high school. They peaked at high school. And so they remember that one time where they felt the best and they are there. They're stuck in the past. And then there's another one that keeps us distracted. That's where most people are in. The reason why is because they use social media to consume a lot of these content. They scroll, they doom scroll, whatever it may be. They doom scroll so that they can feel distracted. Excuse me. They feel distracted. Hi, Victoria. They doom scroll in order to feel distracted so that they can feel something, so that they don't have to face themselves. Like my audit that I give to other people is like, go home, don't be on your phone, go stare at a damn wall, okay? Stare at a blank wall, and then see how you feel. Do you feel bored? Are you uncomfortable with that type of silence? Are you asking yourself too many damn questions that you're too unwilling to face? If that's the case, chances are you'll probably have a lot of work to do within yourself in order to become better. But most people are unwilling to face that. Why? Because it's too much work. And like I said, most people major in minor things. More people do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure. So that pain of constantly facing these things that you're neglecting, whether it's your health or whatever it may be. My name is Mitchell. Whatever it may be, they constantly distract themselves. So one that keeps you in the past, another one that keeps you distracted, and then the next one is the one that pulls you forward. So these are emotionally compelling reasons, okay? And I didn't make this myself. Tony Robbins, shout out to you because it's where I heard it from. And so he talked about where this type of this emotionally compelling reason to do something greater than yourself, a purpose, a mission, a drive, whatever it may be, that is your core, and something that keeps you up late at night, and something that is like the first thing you think about first thing in the morning. And for me, it's relationship coach. It's becoming a better person, whatever it may be. I'm from California. And so that being said, it's like I have a purpose. It's emotion compelling. It keeps me up late at night, and that's the first thing I think about early in the morning, as well as everything else, right? I like to do difficult things first, meaning go to the gym, get that out of the way, work out, exercise, have a good healthy body physically, and then educate myself. So I got to read a book or at least listen to a podcast, whatever it may be. That being said, it is important to have a drive in life because, one that keeps you in the past, the one that keeps you distracted, if you don't have something that pulls you forward, eventually you can have all the motivation in the world, but motivation, just like push energy, and how we know about push is there's only so much that you could push until you get tired. But a pull, kind of like gravity, it just draws you in. It's something that attracts you even when you're like tired. And so that is why it is so important to find something bigger than yourself so that you can move towards that. And so a lot of people is stuck in this distraction phase, which is that they need to feel something in order to feel like something is important. Now, chances are, if you're this type of person that craves this type of chaos in a relationship or whatever it may be, you're probably, there's a high chance that you were raised in a household where chaos was pretty normal. You didn't get a lot of I love yous. You didn't get a lot of like great, good work. You did, it's always like you're not enough. And there's a lot of yelling, screaming, maybe even some type of physical in there. But you need to feel something in order to feel alive. And silence is uncomfortable. Silence is uncomfortable for you. And it's your job. No one's coming to fix you. You have to take care of it yourself. And you have to realize that if you are that person and you want to be in a good relationship, know that there is a lot of people out there. There's people out there that do not want peace. They want this type of stimulation, and chaos is the fastest and quickest way to feel like they're alive, and so that they feel whole. You know what I mean? And just like the last two chats in the box down over here, you need chaos. It's all good. We're not upset at you. Now, number 2, let's talk about drama is easier than self-reflection. And so I've always said that more people do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. And most people major in minor things. Now, you have to understand that this mediocrity breeds content. There's a lot of mediocre people that don't want something that's bigger than themselves. And that's fine. If that's how they want to live, then by all means. Some people want something bigger. And so Eleanor Roosevelt said this really, really great. It's a quote. And it says, great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. And so if you think about it, if you're always surrounded by the type of people that constantly talk shit about other people, what makes you think the moment you turn around then that they're not going to talk about you? Think about that for a second. Now, this is why I tend to try to move away from people that is constantly talking shit about other people, because the moment I turn my back, they're going to talk some shit regardless. So I don't need those type of people to take away my time. And my time that I'm giving you, I will never get back. And so that's why time that I give to other people is very important. And so let's talk about the insecurities. So when someone doesn't feel secure within themselves, they don't ask for reassurance. They create situations that forces this. And remember, when you try to force things to happen, it's usually not the best. Okay? And so an example of that in a relationship would be taking much longer to reply on purpose to see if that other person is willing to chase you. So you're not doing anything, trying to play some games in order to create this type of reaction from them. And you might succeed, but if nothing else about you changed, you're probably not going to get a lot of success. You get a lot of temporary short-term successes. Maybe you might get her to say, hey, how come you're not doing this? And how come you're not doing that? But if you're not a great person that leads your own life, and if you're a guy, you watching this and you're supposedly this masculine figure, but you're not actually doing anything to move towards that, well, eventually she's going to find an exit, okay? And so there's some instant gratification, but nothing of substance. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so another example is pretending to be cold and distant, right? To see if your partner or whoever it may be notices, or bringing old issues up so that you could get them emotionally like riled up. Worse, and this is a character flaw, which is flirting with other people to provoke this type of jealousy, and or like saying things like, "Oh, and woman, I know you say this, okay? Saying I'm fine when you're clearly not, hoping that you would that he will chase you for approvals and things like that." It's like I understand men and women communicate differently, but sometimes you have to understand, like, if the guy that you're with is trying his best to understand you, then you should try to understand him. And so the best quote that I would even say from Jim Rohn is, I'll take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. Because that completely wipes out this codependency. You're working to support each other, to bring each other up, to support each other. And that's a very, very rare trait to have in a relationship. Not a lot of people understand that. Most people want to be in a relationship, but they're not willing to put in the time and effort to educate themselves, to understand, to be better. And, I'm learning it just as much as you are. I'm still learning to this day, and I'm still learning a lot about myself. Even though I'm the one that's helping and coaching people, like, you have to understand that I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be growing, because if I don't grow and I don't become better than I am today, the next day, I'm going to be stagnant. And, that's, to me, that's not a type of life I want to live. And so I'm always going to educate myself. And I advise people to do that too. But don't get so lost in it where you're losing sleep over it. You know what I mean? And so, anyways, chaos. Okay. And so why do people lean towards this? Why do people lean towards this? So direct communications feel too vulnerable to them. And if it's too vulnerable, they don't feel safe. Why? Because it could be a possibility where they were raised in a household where if they tried to say something, they were immediately shut down. Basically, your feelings don't matter. You're being a bitch. You're being overly dramatic, whatever it may be. So every time you open up, you get shot down. How do you think you're going to react or feel when you get into a relationship when you're actually with a really, really great person that's willing to listen to you, but you're unwilling to open up because of what happened in the past? And so, or maybe you're just with a person that just doesn't understand, don't listen to you. Whatever you're feeling, it's wrong. That doesn't validate your feelings. And, you're not going to be happy in that relationship. And most people, they stay stuck. They settle in a relationship where they're unhappy and they feel like, well, this is my life, right? And that's the story you tell yourself, and that's how you're going to live. And so that's the reality. What else? So they lean towards game playing games with each other feels feels safer than just being honest. Why? Because when you're honest, there's always that risk of like, well, they might not like me if I'm too honest. Angela, I have been invalidated at home. Isn't that a shitty feeling? Isn't that a very shitty feeling where how you feel is invalidated, where you're not supposed to feel this way. You're not supposed to have this type of feeling. Well, it's there for a reason. And our goal is to try to understand it, or at least listen to it so that we get more information. And Angela, I've always said this, men and women communicate differently. When my girlfriend feels something, I try my best to always listen to her. I'm like, what is going on? What's bothering you? And she will have sometimes the feelings that she has, And it might be that time of month. And she knows it too. Okay. But that's how she feels. She was like, and then, she talks about it. She explains it. And sometimes I'm like, I understand you. I hear you. But you sound absolutely crazy right now. But I'm here for you. All right. And so she'll go back inside and then kind of be within herself, right? Moments later, she would come back out and be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. That was me being a little. I just feel a lot, and that's who I am." And I'm like, "It's okay. I knew you were a little out of pocket sometimes, but it's you're not yelling and screaming. You're not throwing plates and stuff. So that's good, and so it's understandable. And so I'm allowing her to try to open up, where opening up to me feels safe for her, where it doesn't feel uncomfortable. And so that is where feminine energy flourishes. And so, and how does that happen? It's because I understand that being masculine means that this masculine energy means that I need to remain calm. I need to listen. I need to understand her. I need to do this. Why? It's not natural to me. That's something that I had to learn. And so when I was learning this, I was like, okay, it just takes time, it takes effort, it takes listening skills. It requires quality questions like why do you feel like this? What caused you? What do you think you can do to make you feel better, right? And so like quality questions like that, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. To some degree. To some degree, you could be a little too honest sometimes. Learn how to phrase your words a little differently. I've fallen into the victim of saying the first thing on my mind sometimes, and usually I try to dial it back, but I'm human like anybody else. We make mistakes. And so when that does happen, it's like, well, okay, you try to not make that mistake over and over and over and over. So anyways, what else? Okay, so in relationships, right? In relationships, people that craves this type of chaos in relationships, it feels like you need this whole roller coaster of like spikes, like emotional highs, emotional lows in order to feel something. And so relationships like that, it feels like a roller coaster instead of a partnership. And that's not very good. Or the other person feels like I constantly have to prove myself to you in order to feel worthy to be in this relationship. It's like, that's not a relationship. That's not a relationship. Relationship, you allow things to happen. You allow things to come and go as you please. And so for me, I gear most of my content towards men that tries to become better. Okay? And I always tell them like, hey, women are like cats. There are some times where they are all over you. There's some times where they just want to be left alone. Yesterday, my girl wanted to be left alone, and I was like, that's cool. I'm here. I'll be watching this. You go have your time, all right? Now imagine she was like, I want to be left alone. I was like, no, you can't. What's wrong? What's bothering you? And it's like, imagine that type of desperate, type of needy, like insecure type of energy that I was giving out. She's not going to trust my masculine core. She's not going to feel my strength. When she said, I want to go back inside and I just want to be left alone, I was like, all right, I'm here if you want to talk to me, but I understand if you want to be left alone. And guess what happened? The next day, okay, Saturday. So Friday night, she wasn't feeling well. Saturday, she was like, she came this morning, right before she went to work, she came back in, gave me a hug, gave me a kiss, told me she missed me. And then she asked me how come I didn't, hold her when I was sleeping. I was like, I thought you wanted to be left alone. And it was hot. So it's nothing personal. It was hot in the room. We need better ventilation, so we got to figure that out. But yeah, I just thought you wanted to be left alone. She was like, no, I still want you to hold me, feel like you care. I was like, I could do that. Maybe when the temperature goes down a little bit. So there's a lot of things that's it's not going well temperature wise. If you can communicate and apologize, you can have a good relationship. Absolutely. But not a lot of people want that. They want a type of relationship where it's constantly emotional highs, emotional lows, whatever it may be in order to feel something. Hold on, give me 1 second. All right, so roller coasters. Now, let's talk about this one quote, okay? Where I said, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. And so, talking about people is easy. Talking about yourself requires accountability, and most people avoid that. So, remember, I said more people do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure. So, facing yourself, facing your own shadows, whatever you want to call it, things you have to work on in order to become better, shit, that takes time. It is easier to stuff yourself with ice creams and chips and I do miss a bag of chip. But all those, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to just drown yourself in that, right? To not do anything, to not move towards something bigger than yourself. It is easy. It's easy to do that. And so if you want to be a person of value in life, you have to at least do things for yourself that is good for you, whether like going to the gym, educating yourself, like whatever you enjoy doing, go towards that. Like you have to remember that in nature, okay, just think about this in this perspective. In nature, the tree grows to its highest potential. Okay, a tree doesn't just grow and be like, you know what, I think this is a good height, this is where I want to be. It grows to whatever it is provided, sunlight, water, nutrients, whatever it may be, right? It grows to its own highest potential. Humans, on the other hand, we keep talking ourselves out of things because we have people that, like, if you want to call them friends, that really thinks that you want to succeed, but they're, they really don't want you to succeed. There's a lot of people out there that want you to succeed, but not much more than they are. Why? Because when you do become that, you become a reflection to them, to what they are not. And so if you do succeed to a place where you're much better, you're in a much better place financially, physically, mentally, whatever it may be, you're going after the things that you want and they're not, you become this mirror and it's uncomfortable for them to face. And so you have to remember that even when I'm doing these lives, I've gotten a lot of criticism from like my friends, even some family members. They're like, Mitchell, what do you know about relationship? How many relationships you've been in? And then at one point, don't get me wrong, okay? Like it really kind of like hit me a little hard too. Because they were like, I've been in much more relationships than you. I could do better. And then my mom like, what? Then why don't you? That's not what they wanted. And then luckily I had a good friend and he was like, you don't have to be this all-star player in order to be a coach, to step to the sideline and see what is going on. So you don't have to be that all-star player. You just got to be the person that could spot flaws so that you could correct it so that you could become better. And I will always thank him for that because I feel like if he had not said that, and if I didn't have good people like that, that this would not have happened. Like all this whole idea of getting a mic, being able to talk to you guys. And so we all feel a little bit of discouragement sometimes, right? But it's important to feel whatever you feel right now and move towards the things that you want and don't lose sight of that. Okay. Now, that took a long time. Because look, when my friends or family was telling me all these things, they needed a reaction from me. They needed something like this type of chaos because that's what they were used to. And if I duck down and stop doing it, I'm just validating how they feel about themselves because they're not willing to work towards that. It doesn't mean I shouldn't. And so anyways, let's talk about how many more slides I got two more things to talk about. All right. So the next one, slide number 3 is if you don't value peace, you ruin it when you have it. If you do not value peace, you will ruin that peace when you have it. And so a lot of people, they talk about They want a healthy relationship. They want to be in a successful, healthy, happy relationship. But when they get one, it feels so unfamiliar to them that they do things to sabotage it, right? It sabotage and they exactly. And so when you don't, or someone great comes along, maybe someone physically appealing comes into your life out of your league. You're a 6 or a 7, they're at least a 9 or a 10, whatever it may be. I don't deserve this person. What do they see in me? Whatever it may be, right? Like, things could be going well, right? So they start overthinking it and, oh, is this too good to be true? Or maybe picking small fights out of nowhere when everything's kind of calm, or feeling bored when there's no drama. Like, oh, some people, like I said, they crave drama, even though nothing's wrong. Pushing away healthy people because it doesn't feel intense enough for them. And so things like that. And when this happens, and why it happens is because, like I said, they're too used to chaos. Peace to them feels empty. It doesn't feel like, hey, you know what? I need to feel something in order to feel like this relationship is worth investing. And so this emptiness, this peace and emptiness, they misconstrued that. They think like, oh, this peace is not, it's weird. But in reality, this peace that the other person is offering you is this sense of safety. You don't see it as safety. You see it as, damn, it's just empty. They're boring, right? And so they mistake a lot of calm for a lack of connection. And these are people that don't value time and time within themselves. And I'm not saying like, oh, they love being alone. People say they love being alone. They love being distracted when they're not bothered. Okay, there's a difference. There is a big difference. A lot of people say, oh, I love being alone. All right, then sit your ass down and don't be on your phone. Can you do that? And not distract yourself, whether it's music, whatever it may be. Like, can you really be alone? Sit in a room, turn off the lights. See, and I'm not talking about going to sleep. Be in your own thoughts. Can you do that? Or are you going to feel bored? So there's the big difference, okay? Now, in relationships, like what you said, Angela, they sabotage consistency. They confuse stability with this, oh, the lack of spark. So if you think about it, if peace feels boring to you, it's not because peace is boring, it's because you're used to chaos. That's what it is. And so the right relationship feels calm. It's not confusing. And so this is my last slide. And so a healthy relationship isn't built on constant emotional highs, okay? It's built on clarity and being respectful. That's what it is. And it's not to say that you can't have fun in a relationship. You could joke around, say certain things, right? Keep the fun alive in a relationship. Have a good time with each other. But also be clear, be respectful. And so in a drama-based relationship, which a lot of people, they kind of lean towards, especially in this modern world, modern dating apps and all that, right? Constant reassurance, consumption, and constant need of feelings, okay? You're always guessing how they feel, okay? Like, hey, damn, like, how are they feeling? Kind of like walking on eggshells. To me, it's too much energy. I'd rather use that energy for something else, right? So small issues turn into big fights, okay? Or you feel more anxious in a relationship than you do feel secure. That's what a drama-based feeling relationship feels like. Excuse me. In a healthy relationship, on the other hand, you can sit in silence without feeling like this tension, like you have to say something to me. Or problems that you guys actually have, it gets addressed. Like you guys talk about it. There's communication, there's clarity, there's a respect, there's understanding, there's listening. And so you do that without creating this need for escalation in a relationship. Why? Because most people, one, even if you have the information, most people are uninformed about this. And so the immediate reaction is to escalate the problem. Say this, I will get another reaction from this person instead of trying to solve that problem together, like what's going on, being heard, right, Angela? Or feeling invalidated for your feelings. And so they crave this chaos. But like I said, healthy relationships, it gets addressed without being escalated. Or you feel calm. You're not constantly being stimulated. And like I said, in this world, that's kind of rare. So healthy relationships, they communicate directly instead of trying to play games with each other. They don't need to feel like they need to test you so that they can feel secure within themselves. Because if someone's constantly needing to test you, to question you, like, what are you doing? Where are you? And all that, that's coming from a place of insecurity, fear, and whatever it may be that they're feeling, it's a place of weakness. That's what I would say. Coming from a place of weakness, those are your problems, not theirs. And so if you're unaware of that, it's easy to drive someone great away. Okay. And when someone great walks out of your life, you would definitely feel it. You 100% feel that because people like that, they don't come around very often. They don't. Okay. And when they are single, they're not just out there giving their time away to everybody. And they're not in a market for very long, whether they're in a relationship or they choose to be with someone or they choose not to be with someone. Like they're not in the market very long. Just because they're single, it doesn't mean that they want to be with you. You know that? It's you have to work for yourself in order to attract that right person for you. Think of it as a whole, right? Like a little circle, okay? And you're a square. And you're trying to fit into this circle. It's just not going to fit. You could try to force it. You know, you might do some damage, but it's not going to fit well. And what's not for you will eventually not be yours unless you're willing to work towards something bigger than yourself. And so what I would recommend, if people lean towards drama and chaos and you're like, damn, I value peace, but my life right now is very hectic and there's a lot of chaos, don't reward that drama with more attention. So whatever you tolerate in life, you invite more of. And so, you know, me personally, it took me a long time to understand because it felt scary. Okay, so if you're feeling like this, you're not alone. But it felt scary because in my life, all it was before, at least, it was a lot about chaos. It was a lot about this need to feel something, whether it's highs or lows or whatever it may be. There's a lot of chaos. There wasn't a lot of peace. Peace, when I experienced it, it felt great. It didn't feel right, but it felt great. And it was unfamiliar to me. I didn't know what it was. I was like, wait, is this the life I want to live? And if I want that for myself, I have to become that person. I have to become the person I want to be. And if I want that in my life and I want to attract the right person that wants that in my life, I can't ask for that if I don't have that myself. And so it took me a long time. And somehow through reading and educating myself, and I've always said this, Coach Corey Wayne, even though if you looked at his content and he just looks like a regular dude, right? Regular bald white dude. I'm not clowning on him. Like you wouldn't really believe what you saw. You're like, okay, you're telling me that this guy knows a lot about relationships and you're gonna be, at first I had my own thoughts about it. I was like, wait, there's no way. The more I got into it, his information is priceless. I highly, highly, highly suggest that you not only listen to me, but listen to other people, right? And then eventually you're going to have your own voice. But listen to many, but speak with your own. And so that's something that really kind of grounded me within myself. But it took a long time. It took about a decade. Okay. And what I would say to you is that most people over evaluate what they could do in a year, but undervalue what they could do in 10. And so within 10 years, I'm in a much better, much more peaceful. It doesn't mean everything's peaceful, but I try to keep it at a minimal. But it's a place that I'm proud of, and it's a place that I felt like I designed myself. And so, anyways, that's a little bit about myself, because, like I said, I was raised in a place with a lot of chaos, and not a lot of people get to move away from that. And it's because they feel like they're stuck. They feel like that's their life. But I've always remembered Tony Robbins. He was like, be careful with the story that you consistently tell yourself. If you tell yourself enough, you will start to believe it. And if you that and that's why I even stopped saying things like, damn, I can't do this, or I can't afford that. It's like, no. Instead of saying I cannot afford this or I cannot do this, the better question or the better thing to ask is, how can I afford this? Or how can I do this? How can I become more successful in the things that I want to do? How can I? And so you become this person that solves things. And then once you're able to solve one thing, you'll always find a way to solve another. And so you become more confident in solving things. And when you're more confident in solving things, you become even more competent. And when you're like, hey, you know what? There's nothing that I cannot solve myself. Okay. There's always a solution out there. I just need to trust myself enough to be able to solve this. And, once you do that enough, you're going to always find a way to solve a problem that you have. And so, anyways, I know I steered away a lot about, this drama and chaos, but, don't reward drama with attention. Okay. A real relationship isn't two people constantly reacting to each other. It's two people building something bigger together. Okay. And just remember this: if someone needs chaos in a relationship to feel alive, they're not ready for peace. And it is not your job to fix them. And that being said, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate your time. I don't know who else is watching. It shows 3 people. Angela, I know you were the one that was constantly saying the right things. And so I appreciate you for coming here and spending the time. It means a lot to me. That being said, I'll catch you guys on the next live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So I'll see you next week. All right. Peace.